Hello, everybody. How you doing? It's Damon again with another rebooking scenario, and this time we're up to SummerSlam 2009. 2009. Basically, to recap the year in question, I do remember that in the summer of that year, in pop culture, we had several movies. I mean, in terms of movies, you had Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, was bleh. We had Terminator Salvation, which was a good. I felt was a good movie, but wasn't a great Terminator movie. You had Christian Bale, and this is where his famous outburst came from. And yeah, we had that movie. We also had in the same summer, we had Land of the Lost, which I felt was one of the weakest Will Ferrell movie there's ever been. I mean, the movie I know was basically taken from the show Land of the Lost. But if I were to tell you how much time I laughed, I think I laughed three times in a Will Ferrell movie in the 2000, which says something. What else was there in that summer? There were a good Star Trek reboot, surprising from J.J. Abrams, since considering I don't have that much esteem in his filmmaking abilities. He usually either does remakes or tries to do a one-off, a reboot, and never completes what he starts. We also had Angel's Demon, which was good. We had X-Men in Origin. X-Men Origins Wolverine, one of the worst superhero movies of all time. But that month, there was a Pixar classic Up, which is still one of my favorite movies ever and one of my favorite Pixar movies ever. Then, I think in July of that year, we had Public Enemies, a movie by Michael Mann, who directed Eat and Collateral, which was okay. We had Harry Potter, the sixth one, Half-Blood Prince, which was fine, was good. Ice Age 3 was good. Bruno in the last entry in the Borat trilogy, in the Sacha Borat Baron Cohen trilogy. And I'm trying to see what else we had that. Yeah, that's all I can recall. But then in August, we had G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, which was again mid. Just a team of movies that summer were kind of mid or disappointing. And then we had the awesome Inglourious Basterds, which Inglourious Basterds and Up happened to be my favorite movies of that year, along with Sherlock Holmes and Watchmen. So yeah, there was a lot of Hollywood, but to me, 2009 felt like a transition year in Hollywood. Like we're transitioning toward, we had a great movie summer in 2008, and we're trying to transition to another great summer, which was 2010 or 2012. Now, in terms of music, it was the same year that Michael Jackson died. In June of 2009, Jason Solomon of the Sound Monster Sounds Off covered that perfectly. There was a lot of drama, a lot of basically people reporting on it. And yeah, and it was a major event at that point, but it's also have to take in consideration that Michael Jackson was a drug addict. So, and he was taking a drug which was only used or should only be used for surgery, and it wasn't the case in terms of Michael Jackson. So yeah, that was the state in terms of pop culture, in terms of music, in terms of movies. Was there a TV show that ended in 2009? I don't recall. Maybe you can clarify in the comments. In terms of wrestling, though, during the summer, Rey Mysterio was the Intercontinental Champion. He had a fantastic match with he had a short feud with Chris Jericho, in which he lost the IC title to Chris Jericho at Extreme Rules, but regained it several weeks later at the Bash. So that was it seems to be the Chris Jericho's last I title reign to date. We had Kofi Kingston win the United States title. I would have had it basically win it at WrestleMania. And yeah, you had basically the same night that Jericho lost the IC title. He went to team with Edge and won. Well, him and Edge, who both of them happened to lose basically their single titles around the Bash or One Night Stand, Extreme Rules, sorry. They teamed up to win the undisputed tag team titles at the Bash before Edge soon after got injured. We uh what else? You had Christian being ECW champion by defeating Tommy Dreamer at Night of Champions. Batista won briefly the W title only to vacate it and Randy Orton regaining it. We had Shawn Michaels DX feuding against Legacy. We had the great Jeff Hardy CM Punk feud. We had Cena Orton. So there's a lot of things I felt like in the actual SummerSlam card. Let me check it up. The first match where Rey Mysterio defended the IC title against Dolph Ziggler. We had MVP beating Jack Swagger. We had Jerry Show defeating Crime Time. We had Kane beating the Great Khali. We had DX beat Legacy. We had Christian defend the ECW title against Real and Regal. We had Orton defend the W title against John Cena. And the main event was a TLC match in which case CM Punk won the World Heavyweight title from Jeff Hardy. So there was no women's match in that card, apart from considered pre-show, which to me doesn't really register. So I look at this and I felt like knowing the roster and some of them were on injury, I felt like some of this could have been improved. Some of them, and that's the thing, some of them, not all of them, but some of them could have been improved. And that's where I come in. So here I would start for the IC title. Rey Mysterio would indeed defending against Dolph Ziggler, but I would defend it also against Hurricane Helms and John Morrison. And I would have John Morrison basically start off SummerSlam 2009 by winning the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam by pinning Rey Mysterio. Fair and square. Besides, Rey Mysterio is going to lose it the next SmackDown. Why not do it one show beforehand? I thought that was basically an opportunity to do it on a big time pay-per-view and not on a small SmackDown. So that would be the first match. Second match, it will be for the Divas title. You could have Mickie James defend against Alicia Fox. I would have Mickie James retain the Divas title after a great 9 minutes match. I mean, Alicia Fox was one of the greatest one of the greatest match of all time against Melina at SummerSlam 2010. I hope that one of those days at WrestleMania 44, we do receive an Hall of Fame, basically an Hall of Fame plaque for best match or immortal moment or whatever. I really hope so. If that is, I will pop. I will basically cheer so damn much for this. And I do know that Cameron will as well. So yeah. Then a third match for the US title. I would have Kofi Kingston defense in a elimination scramble match against Miz, MVP, Jack Swagger, Matt Hardy, and Mark Henry. Mark Henry just turned face. So I would start off the match. Basically, I would have Mark Henry basically dominate and eliminate Jack Swagger within 2 minutes with the World's Strongest Slam. Then everybody, Kingston, Miz, MVP, despite the fact he's partnered with Mark Henry and Matt Hardy, all team up to get rid of Mark Henry, like basically following Trouble in Paradise, the drive-by kick, the twist of fate, or basically I think the skull crossing finale, a second rope leg drop from Matt Hardy. Everybody's teaming up to pin Mark Henry, 1, 2, 3. Mark Henry kicks out immediately after 3. Then he pummels everybody else. So it's between Kingston, Miz, MVP, and Matt Hardy. And you would have basically a renewal of MVP versus Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy's kind of an heel there. You can reunite with Jeff afterwards. So in this case, I would have made sure that one miscalculation between Miz and Matt Hardy leads to MVP eliminated Matt Hardy with a playmaker. But immediately afterward, Miz delivers a skull-crushing finale to MVP to eliminate him. So between Kingston and Miz, and long story short, Kofi Kingston is the Trouble in Paradise of the corner. As Miz basically counters the skull-crushing finale to win and conserve the U.S. title. Fourth match of the night is a co-women's champion in Lay Cool not defending, but facing off against Melina and Gail Kim. I would have Melina pin Michelle McCool to secure a women's title match at the next pay-per-view. Then the fifth match of the card, you had Jericho versus the Collins versus the World's Greatest Tag Team versus Crime Time. That's a fatal four-way. And this case, since we already had a fatal four-way in the first match, this one would be elimination rules. Again, Crime Time gets eliminated by Jericho. Collins gets eliminated by the World's Greatest Tag Team, War Faces, and Jericho retain the tag team titles with the combination of the World the WMD and well as Jericho owes Charlie Haas in place. Jericho hits a code breaker for the 1, 2, 3. Then you would have Kane versus R-Truth. The reason is Kane versus Great Khali could be basically seen on bigger matches, but I could see like Great Khali, like I think he lost he lost the month before a Night of Champion, then he faced him at SummerSlam, then he faced a Breaking Bad. That's the only feud I can recall, apart from against Undertaker in 2010, in which Kane completely dominated. And I would have Kane face up against R-Truth, and Kane would win. For the ECW title, I would have Christian defend against Tyson Kidd because the William Regal match was such a joke. It was an 8 seconds match. So it felt just as short as Kane versus Chavo Guerrero, coincidentally enough for the ECW title. I would have Christian versus Tyson Kidd, 12-minute match. Now Christian retain the ECW title. Then we'd have Randy Orton versus John Cena. And Randy Orton was at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. The reason why it's important is it's the same building in which case John Cena won the W title for the very first time in his career. That's WrestleMania 21st. Coincidentally enough, he only won his last WWE title at WrestleMania 41, which is 20 years later. I would have, in this case, John Cena, knowing Bret DiBiase interfered, and we don't talk about Bret DiBiase, just like we don't talk about Bruno. I would have John Cena beat Randy Orton after a third counter RKO. It's an attitude adjustment, STF. Basically, he knocks down Cody, knocks down Ted DiBiase, and Randy Orton taps. Anyway, the Breaking Point pay-per-view happened the month afterwards. You can basically have the same match next month and have Randy Orton regain title at Hell in a Cell. Then in a penultimate match, it'd be Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase, and Vladimir Kozlov taking on Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and the Great Khali. Yes, we know that Legacy was feuded with DX. Basically, they were and basically double teaming and triple teaming Triple H, who was desperate for a partner. He said Ric Flair retired. He said Batista. I think they were making passive aggressive thing about Batista's always injured. So he goes to ask Shawn. You could have Shawn be reluctant. Not the same stupid segment he was, but reluctant returns that I retired in his mind because I wrestled the perfect match can take her. I don't want to sully that. But he's basically the ego of Shawn was brought back. He basically Triple H caters to Shawn Michaels' ego, and Shawn comes back. And the reason why they have Great Khali in their corner and the other corner is Kozlov is because they're both of them feuding to see who's the biggest monster of SmackDown. So you have Triple H versus Shawn Michaels and Great Khali. You can have Great Khali versus this brain chop of doom to Kozlov, take him out. Legacy does their legacy thing to basically throw Great Khali over the top rope, and Khali just sells the outside. You could have Cody gets low blowed and super kicked, and at least Ted DiBiase get the sweet chin music and pedigree. And you can even add like pedigree, and just for funsies, Shawn does the moonsault and pins Ted DiBiase Jr. in 18 minutes to win the title, to win the match. And the main event, like in real life, for the World Heavyweight title in a TLC match, you have Jeff Hardy defending against CM Punk. And I want CM Punk to go the same length as he did in real life, like 20, 25 minutes, and the main event, and CM Punk wins the World Heavyweight title. That's how I would have booked SummerSlam 2009. Let me know what you think, comments down below. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.